Well, today we're continuing our exploration of South Texas politics and what's changing and going on down here with Chuck Stewart, who's the president of the McAllen Tea Party Association. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what's going on in South Texas. A lot of people may not even be aware that the Tea Party exists down here, the what's so-called Democrat stronghold of Texas. So tell us a little bit about what your organization is doing and what the other organizations in this area are doing as well.
McAllen Tea Party Association, of course, was born March or April of 2009, when all the rest of the tea parties across the country were born. We grew out of the grass. We're grassroots, and there are actually 4 tea parties in the Rio Grande Valley. The Rio Grande Valley is considered a mini economic, social area of the country. And there's the Brownsville Tea Party, the Harlingen Tea Party, the McAllen Tea Party, and of course the Hispanic Tea Party. When you take into account that 90% of the households in the Rio Grande Valley are of Latino heritage, and 80% of those households have Spanish as their primary language, then it's no-brainer that a Hispanic Tea Party would work well. And I always have to mention that the only difference between the Hispanic Tea Party and the McAllen Tea Party is the fact that they speak Spanish, so that we can talk to the locals who aren't necessarily actively involved in politics in a language that they'll understand, where they get the innuendos and the importance and the significance of the conversation, the political conversation that's going on today in this country.
Much like if we were in a local grocery store in Polk, Texas, we might be having a conversation in Polish.
Yes, or if you were in Fredericksburg, it would be in German.
Right.
Exactly.
So a lot of that goes on all across the area. The news media tells us that Hispanics are all Democrats. So why would they look at the Tea Party and the conservative side of politics?
Well, they are Democrats. The difference is they're conservative Democrats. And there's very little conservatism left in the Democratic Party these days. So when they're forced to choose at the ballot box, they go with what's familiar to them. They go with what they know, and they vote Democratic. And so our challenge here, being a minority and being lambasted, if you will, every chance the media gets to call us names, we're still committed to reaching out to the local community and getting them to realize that Democrat, Republican, well, those are political parties. We want to talk about values. We want to talk about their conservative values. Look at the family. Look at their faith. Look at their traditions. They all speak to conservatism. And so we want to touch them on that level. That's what the Tea Party is all about. Our saying is we're no party but the Tea Party. That's us. We're the Tea Party of McAllen, and we're going to keep working on this project until we make a difference.
So without putting words into your mouth, as I see what you're saying.
There's plenty of them in there. You don't have to.
There's almost a two-pronged approach to this, to take the current Democrats and move maybe some new people into the elected offices there who would be more conservative as Democrats than the incumbents might be, and then also to increase the Republican Party and the conservative influence of the Republican Party down here as well. Is that fairly accurate?
Exactly. We have Democrats in our group.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at the conservative values that this country was born with, that was founded on, and we don't look to party, so to speak, when it comes to candidates. Mm-hmm. We're looking at their values. We're looking at their conservatism. What do they hold out to be for us in our representative republic, when it comes to keeping us on track to be the most powerful nation in the world, the shining light on the hill, if you will. And I don't want to wax philosophical here, but the point is, we don't care if they're Democrat, and we don't care if they're Republican. If they're American first, we'll go with them.
Now, down here in Congressional District 15, you have 2 opportunities to try to take out a very liberal congressman in Osa. one being Jane Cross, who's running against him in the Democrat primary, and then you also have several Republicans that are running to be the Republican nominee to oppose Hinojosa if he survives the primary.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that race and what you're working on there.
Well, the Tea Party, of course, has already hosted or co-sponsored 2 candidate forums where we had 4 Republicans and 2 Democrats for District 15. And we're listening real close. And Jane Cross offers for us a light in the tunnel, if you will. I'm not going to say at the end of the tunnel, but in the tunnel, in the sense that here we have a conservative Democrat. And the Tea Party, even across the nation, has this misconception out there in the media that we're an adjunct to the Republican Party. And so we're constantly battling that mindset, trying to put ourselves forward as what we truly are. Jane Cross represents what we are. She's conservative. She has values that are in line with ours, and so we have no problem supporting her. She was part of the GO campaign. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but I personally believe that that's one way that we can take this country back in the House of Representatives, is to elect politicians that don't tend to make a career out of it, that intend to do the will of the people that they support. Jane Cross offers that to us. And here's the real secret of this whole thing. For the Tea Party, it's a win-win. It's a win-win. If Jane wins, whoa, do we want good or better? We want best or better. You know, and it really, it's going to be if Jane wins the primary, it's going to be a real provoking or provocative election decision for conservatives. Because all the 4 major Republican candidates who we just listened to one Thursday night in our meeting, spoke for 30 minutes telling us exactly what we wanted to hear. Of course, he's a politician. He's not, but he says he's not anyway. But we've got all of this, and then we've got a Democrat over here too. So it's a win-win situation the way I see it.
And that really is the ideal of the Tea Party. It's not an adjunct of the Republican Party. It's to promote conservative values and the traditional role of the Constitution in the form of government, limited government,
exactly.
Representative government.
You know, I'm glad you said limited government versus big government. The United States is a big country. It needs big government, but it needs big government with the proper limitations. We need to get back to the definition in the Constitution of what our limited form of government is. The Declaration of Independence has 1,500 words. The Constitution has 5,000 words. And read through the whole thing in one sitting. And if you connect the two, the values and principles in the Declaration of Independence and the framework, how to implement those principles that are outlined in the Constitution, you quickly come to the conclusion that we're way off track. We got government doing stuff that was not designed to do, was not created to do. And how does it do it? The way it does everything. The only thing the government does well is wage war. And that's what it's for, is to protect the interest of the individuals. I could go on and on and on about individual freedom and societal freedom and liberties and things like that. But the point is that Jane Cross offers a wonderful opportunity for the McAllen Tea Party, and there are candidates across the country that are doing the same thing. And I think this is going to be a game changer for the Democrats. They're going to get their act together, or they're going to be out of the game. You know, remember the Republican Party was formed in 1854 in a little town called Jackson, Michigan, 90 miles from my hometown, because the prevailing parties couldn't get their act together.
Right.
And they called it the Republican Party because it went back to the values and principles that the Republic was founded on.
So you mentioned the forum that you had for the Republican candidates. I understand you also had a second forum?
We did. We had one in Weslaco. The candidates over there this forum was specifically for Democrats. The Democrats were invited. I forget, there were like 8 Democrats invited. The 2 front runners participated, and it was a very informative. And I can tell you this: these folks are talking like conservative Democrats, and they're not too far off from where we are. And we invited the Democratic Women's Club to co-sponsor that event for us, but unfortunately they declined. However, it was the Tea Party, because we felt it was the need to reach out. This seat will probably go to a Democrat, and we wanted to hear what they had to say. And on some fundamental issues we could agree to disagree, but all in all, we were proud to have done it and to work with the Democrats.
Here in your home, we're 20 miles from the border with Mexico. How does the issue of illegal immigration, border security, other law enforcement related issues, how does that play into your daily lives living down in this part of the country, and particularly into the political aspect of things?
Glad you asked that. We've already discussed the makeup of the society, the populace here being majority Hispanic, or I would prefer the term Latino. The border violence is something that we live with every day. The national media will tell you, even the state media will tell you that it's over there. It's not, it's here. It's in this border, it's in this area, and we live with that every day. The immigration issue touches almost every family that's here. I can tell you for a fact that you can discuss all day long the details and the faults in the system. The reality is that it is broken, it needs to be fixed or scrapped or something, and the person that comes up with the solution that solves the problem or gets us on a path to solve the problem without violence, without economic catastrophe for this area and for the rest of the country, will be the person that the Latinos gravitate to. You can't be bashing Latinos with illegal immigrants, because, like Lou said earlier in your conversation with her, that there are different people here. There are Latinos here that don't like the fact that their families and their relatives are illegal. And there used to be a mechanism in place where that didn't exist.
Right.
And that's what needs to be. We have a Statue of Liberty. She holds out a torch of freedom. And what do we tell them? Stay out, we're going to put a fence up, we're going to put a wall up. National security is number one, and we have to have that. But there's no reason why we can't have national security and an open policy. Not an open border, but an open policy. And so we live with it all the time. There's not a family in this valley that does not have a relative somewhere associated with Border Patrol, immigration, or TSA, or what's the other one I'm thinking of? Homeland Security.
Yeah, we saw driving down here, we saw several Homeland Security vehicles that were driving around. And, it's interesting because you get the feeling when you drive in, you see a more increased presence of law enforcement, and you get that sense that it's almost like a militarized zone, but not quite to that extent. And it must be very different living under those circumstances.
When you have the city of McAllen buying a $1 million tactical four-wheel drive vehicle, you wonder. Yeah, you wonder. And we've had instances where there were shots across the river against our border patrol. It's a reality of what we have to live with on the border. It would be the same if Canada was a third world country. The political situation in Mexico is dire, and we don't know where it's going to go. They've got a presidential election coming up, and there's a lot of contenders for that race in the old guard that was there before, the new guard, and the alternate guard, and where it goes and how they resolve this is crucial to the life here on the border.
Now, oddly enough, I understand that South Texas is actually going to play a very crucial role in the Mexican presidential election. because there are so many Mexican nationals that are living, because of the violence on the south side of the river, so many Mexican nationals that are living in the United States and will actually be voting in the Mexican presidential election. So that'll be interesting to
Sure.
watch how that plays.
The Mexican government doesn't have any problem with dual citizenship either. So there are a lot of people that are citizens of the United States. If they chose, they could vote in the Mexican election.
However, they have to show a photo ID to vote.
How about that?
Isn't that interesting? So,
Yeah. By the way, did you show an ID when you came in?
I did.
Oh.
We have to show one everywhere except when we exercise our most cherished right and responsibility as American citizens to vote.
To vote.
Well, thank you for inviting us into your
You
home
bet.
today and talking to us. Is there anything else that you would like to tell the readers of Texas GOP Vote about life in South Texas and the Tea Party movement down here?
Life in South Texas and the Tea Party movement in South. Come see us. Come see us. Come see what we're all about. I've lived here for 30 years. I'm originally from a Yankee from Michigan. And this is indeed America's frontier. There's a different culture that's going on here, but it's rich. I raised my kids here, and I'm happy that I did. And just come and see us. On a national scale, there is one thing I want to say. We're trying to help the Latinos connect their vote to their values. We need to do that everywhere across this country. People are crying for term limits. There are term limits in the Constitution. And if we had an educated, informed, participatory electorate, we wouldn't be having to have that conversation. We need to get people involved and active in politics, because if you don't get active in politics, they're going to get active in you.
One last question.
Yes,
You brought up
questions are
another-
free.
Okay. The Texas Republican Party is having its annual convention, or semi-annual convention in Fort Worth in June. And many people felt that the language in the last party platform was very anti-Hispanic in terms of rhetoric and tone. Do you see people from the Valley who are part of the Republican Party moving to try to change that language in this next convention party platform fight?
Could be. I've heard some conversations along that line. Again, we're the Tea Party, we're no party but the Tea Party. So what the Republicans do is up to the Republicans. I will say this, it goes to understanding the culture. The Latino culture that's in South Texas comes from Mexico, which comes from Spain, and the locals that are there. And, you know, just like their language, the logic sequence is different. You and I say black car, they say car black. If you take that on a grander scale, the culture of how they approach one another and how they view situations is fundamentally different. Imagine you're trying to communicate with somebody from Jupiter and they don't use verbs. You know, how do you communicate? I mean, the subtleties of the argument that the Republican Party wants to make in favor of Latinos or against any particular issue is sound, but the way they convey it doesn't get their message across. You can cut this if you want. When I was a flight instructor, the idea is to get what's in here, right? What the knowledge that I have in my head has to go in your head. You used to have a little cartoon show the instructor over the student who's sitting in his chair with a funnel in his head, and he's dumping all that information into the funnel. And it's the same thing. If you want to reach to the Latinos, what do? You got to talk to them in terms they can understand. So if the platform is offensive to somebody, you need to look to it. Is it justified, or is there a misunderstanding?
Okay. Well, once again, Chuck, thank you very much for your time and your hospitality here. And we enjoyed the opportunity to talk to you about Tea Party politics in South Texas, and look forward to having that opportunity sometime again in the future.
Okay, get the word out. Tell them that we're their neighbors. We're not radicals.
Thank you very much.